popcorn where I start the discussion.
Want to know some more fun facts?
Isn't it awesome to see some of your favorite content creators and favorite people, honestly, that you follow here on this app, be a part of this amazing community called the Nerd Initiative?
The Nerd Initiative presents the Comic Press Podcast, hosted by JJ's Comic Stuff.
What is going on, everybody? I am your host, JJ's Comic Stuff, here on the Comic Press Podcast. And once again, I've got a guest host with me, Michael Rothman, co-founder of Nerd Initiative. What's going on, man?
Doing good, my friend. Every time I hear Mickey's voice with that intro, it wakes you up really quick.
He's really the voice of Nerd Initiative at this point.
It's the voice of a generation.
But anyway, guys, welcome to episode 2 of the Comic Press Podcast. It won't be a super long episode today, I'm not guessing, but there is something I wanted to go over and get your opinion on. I know I already did for an article, but basically, to review or not to review is the question. And so to give you a little bit more context on this, because I know I didn't give a lot in my article, basically I got sent, along with a lot of other people over at Crossover Comics, we got sent a book from a comic company, and to say it's problematic is an understatement.
Ooh.
But I couldn't tell if it was intentional.
I didn't know the backstory when you asked me either. So I'm interested to hear this story.
Yeah. So I don't want to put the name out there anyway, but as you know, Crossover Comics is the majority of the people in that group on TikTok are Hispanic, and most of them found it extremely offensive.
Oh,
like a lot of stereotypical like lingo and slang, and like the characters have very stereotypical jobs. It's just the whole thing is like.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good.
No.
That even changes my answer to what you had asked me about it.
Well, because I'm not trying to put companies on blast or anything like that. Like, I don't feel like that's professional, I guess I would say. And then at the same time, it's like, what happens when a newer creator gets a hold of something like this and almost feels obligated to do a review because the company sent them a book?
Well, I think, look, I will say this. Coming from the world of media, now that I know the full story, it's okay.
Because personally, I didn't feel comfortable doing a review on it.
Oh,
simply
yeah,
because it's like, I don't know how this is going to go over, even if it's a negative review, just for the sheer fact that it's there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I remember I used to get crazy pitches all the time in my previous life, and I remember there was one that stuck out, and I think it's, look, like, it seems like that was problematic at its core. Like, the book itself like has these stereotypes and probably borderline racist, and so that's not good. I think I remember getting an email where there was a lot of exclamation points. The subject of the email was to get this woman talking for some kind of cause or whatever about the loss of her son, like, who had passed. But like, she sounded like, this PR person sounded really excited about it and was like, she wants to talk about her pain. And I'm like, first of all, like, it just rubbed me the wrong way. And I wrote back, I'm like, hey, like, just to let you know, it seems like you're excited about this story, and it's weird. Like this woman has gone through obviously a tragedy, and this is a different story, but I felt the need to say something to this person because I was like, look, like, this is bad. Like, this is coming across as like really, really, exploitative and just like out of touch. And it sounds like you have just no empathy. And like, I wouldn't. And she's like, oh, okay, I guess like I'm used to like putting exclamation points. And I'm there too. Like, when you work in entertainment, you work in, I think things get very excitable and you're like, this is awesome. Everything's awesome.
Well, it's the hype culture, right? I mean,
yeah.
If there's energy behind something, it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative for some people. They just know it's going to attract something.
But so you don't have to put, so my thing would be like, you don't have to necessarily put a company on blast, but I would say you and again, like you can go either way you want to go on it, right? I don't think you have to put them on blast, but I think you'd be in your rights to kind of be like right back and say, hey, like I'm confused and I've asked friends about this. Like, this seems a little exploitative.
Yeah,
And it seems
because I mean,
it seems a little
I'm
bit
not the only
stereotypical.
one who ended up not even talking about it on their channels, because we
Yeah.
all discussed it as a group inside the Discord server, and a lot of people were like, "Dude, I got through the first 3 pages and put it down."
Yeah, that's bad.
And it's
That's
like
really bad.
overly gory for like not really any kind of reason. It's just kind of there.
Mhm.
Doesn't help further the story or anything. It's just gore for gore's sake, and it doesn't really seem necessary.
And I would ask, like,
Not
so again, I never saw this, so you know that
very generic.
was the use of the like okay, like so. I don't want to put you on the spot, like because I'm just now I'm
Okay,
fascinated
so
by this now.
basically picture a Spider-Man origin story ripped off with an Australian animal and set in a Hispanic neighborhood.
Now, was the creative team behind? Yeah, that's. I mean, first of all, it's also like the ripoff part is rough. Was the creative team behind it? Is there anyone that is of the Hispanic community that's involved in it? Do you know of, or is it completely? Because that also not that it
It's a
changes
mixed
anything.
team, it seems like, based on the names, because I can't find pictures of these people anywhere either.
Yeah. Not that that makes it any better, because again, like
Right.
I'm Jewish and I'm not gonna write like a stereotypical like
Right.
thing about people of the faith or
Exactly.
whatever. Yeah, man, I don't know.
It's just one of those things like, on one hand, you could do something on it showing how negative it is and telling people not to do anything with it, but on the other hand, you're also, making other companies wary of you at the same time, like, "Oh, this dude's gonna, torch us if."
Yeah, I mean, look, I think so. I would separate the two. So I would say you have to be allowed to like. I think we talked about this last time 2 weeks ago. We've become really, really sensitive in our culture, and I think that's problematic because people are afraid to say what they feel. Like, not
Mhm.
everyone is racist, and not everyone is against this, and not everyone like again, I am a Jewish white person, right? Like, I I technically, it's funny. I think the I was looking up the stats the other day. I think like it's less than 5% of the country or something is Jewish. So I'm technically a minority, but obviously I'm privileged and from a privileged perspective. So I'm not going to say that. So like, please people don't attack me out there. But,
Right.
but I will say like, to not be able to say things like to not be true to somebody, like the same way you wouldn't want to like kitten gloves someone because of where they come from or you want to be honest and upfront with people. And so I think there's that aspect. So people need to, I think we're heading into a kind of a backlash perspective these days, because I think what's happening is everyone is too PC, and like, comedians have been talking about it for years. And like, there are things that are lines you don't cross, right? Like there's
That's
rape.
where I feel like this did, like, that's
Yeah.
why it's like, if it was just problematic and I felt like there was some issues with it here and there, it would be one thing. Because 'Cause that'd be
Yeah.
something, okay, out of these positive things, here's what I didn't like about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's something else.
But you
This,
need
I
to be
didn't
able to, I mean,
see.
that's a step further. I think like, even if it wasn't problematic in the way, you're describing, you need to be able to give an honest review. So I think that's the first thing too. Like, people can't be afraid to be negative. Like, and that's what we see all the time
Right, but do
on
you even wanna give that piece of
well, that's the
media
next step.
the
So yeah, that's the
platform?
next layer, right? So the first layer is just like the quality of content. We got to be honest with each other, no matter who you are. Like, I don't, no matter where you come from, if you do something and it's not good, I need to be able to tell you it's not good. Like, you could be from any walk of life, and I need to be able to be honest with you so you can get better and we can grow as human beings. And the same thing for me. Like, I would want someone to say to me, and oh, like, no matter who I am, and not tell me like, oh, it's amazing and like whatever, or just
Right.
not say anything. The next level to what you said is, which is even more important and is more prominent these days, is if something's problematic, I think you're right. Like you have one or two ways to go. I think either you don't give it any airtime, like you said, which is probably most times the right way to go, or if it's affecting someone that you care about, you can speak up and say something back to the person, and see if you're able to kind of change hearts and minds and affect people, much like I've seen. I think Tony talks about this a lot. Marvelite, he always says, and I actually really love this. He's like, and he's not saying it jokingly. He's like, check on your trolls, like reach out to them, see how they're doing sometimes, because he was saying like a lot of them are like just emotionally and mentally struggling. And he gets scared when a troll that like attacks him all the time drops off, because he's afraid that something happened to that person, because they're not, why are you trolling? Why are you doing this? Because you're, something's not right in your life and you're trying to spew toxic, and so that's taking it, another end of being, ultra nice. But I also think like, I think if it's affecting someone, you have the right to, reach out to someone, much like what Tony says, like, see, like, why are you being so, like, why are you doing this? So the same thing with like something being problematic. If it's coming across racist or bigot or however, that shouldn't be around, being like, hey, like, were you aware of that? Because, you never know, like,
right. And that's another reason I haven't put them on blast by name or naming the book or anything like that, is because I don't know exactly what was going through their heads when they created this. You know what I'm so, but it's one of those things where it's like the people of that culture that I am close to, that I asked about it and showed it to, and they've seen it, and they said that they would not appreciate it if I did content on it. So I decided I wouldn't.
No, I mean, there's your answer right there. So people that that you're connected to, with that background, saying, hey, we should, and I think you hit it earlier when you said like we all discussed. That's exactly the thing that should happen. When something comes up like this, talking to people from that walk of life, from that background, and listening to what they feel or think. I mean, I remember when the Supreme Court abortion ruling last year. And in our Discord, we had about 30 or 40 people, and there was a lot of women, rightfully so, going back and forth and talking about this ruling and how it affects them. And obviously it only affects men or partners tangentially. If like, we're connected, like for me, it only affects me for my wife, or you, for your girlfriend or wife or whatever. And so I did not say, I was just being supportive. Would you guys need, like,
right. Because that's one of those things where I'm not a part of that community. So I feel like I need their input before I can say anything.
Yeah. So it seems like you made the right move, just listening to what they have to, what your friends have to say, people that have to say. And the move was not to do anything, and
just to put it in a box of shame somewhere in the house and leave it be.
I think there's a lot of, I also think like, look, like we're in a really weird time. Some people have called it the golden age of TV, because streaming is everywhere. And there's all this, I also think we're in like a very much like cavalier time. There's too many projects out there. And again, I don't know this backstory behind this, and I'm not defending them at all, but there's too many projects out there with not enough accountability and eyeballs on there. There was a show that we were watching, me and my wife, on Apple TV Plus, and it was written really poorly. And it was funny, we were watching it, and it's not, I mean, there's some great shows out there. It was like a war show, and I remember we were like, I'm like, how did this get through? How did this writing get through? How did this like storyline get through? Like the idea is pretty good, and this is a big platform, but the show itself was just really did not deliver well. So I feel like, and then you have self-publishing, which is another thing, right? You have like self-publishing and things like this, streaming like this, like, it's just,
and that's
hard.
what this book was a self-published by one company. It's their first thing. And
it's, but they also might be done. I mean, again, it's a matter of time before I have not self-published anything at this point, like even Amazon, but whatever. I don't know what I don't know what the checks and balances are with stuff like that, but I think it's only a matter of time, if there are, because I mean, we've seen complete toxicity and really troubling things on like a lot of platforms.
Mhm.
You know, I think I'm hoping that there's some kind of accountability, and the publisher or whatever will come back after seeing that and be like, hey, we looked at it and we assessed it, and as it stands now, we are not going to be able to continue to publish this. We just don't believe in it. And so
Mhm.
it's, you know, it's, I don't know what the rules are for that, but it's pretty interesting to look and find out. Maybe something we'll have to experiment and try out in the future, because it is interesting, but there just isn't enough accountability. You know, I think that's the thing. And that comes along with the whole thing we talked about earlier. Like, it's on the other side of the coin, but like, you know, people afraid to speak out and afraid to stop, you know, something. And so they kind, you know, I think everyone's in a fear mode right now. And
Yeah.
so, you know, I hope that that publisher or that company that's running it has the ability and the confidence to say like, look, this is not what we're about. But, you know, or they just take the money and they keep publishing the book, and it's problematic. And, you know, hopefully the readers and the fans, you know, say all they need to say without picking it up and whatnot. So that's a really,
Right.
yeah, you hit a chord, man. It's a really interesting topic, and it's really prominent. And I think it is a problem right now. And it's something that I'm worried about. You know, I don't feel comfortable. It feels kind of like the Wild West, the digital Wild West that we have right now. And that's not digital, but print, digital, everything. I think there's
Right.
so
Well,
many more
it's
platforms.
that whole content creator culture where it's like, oh, that's the whole goal, is to get companies to send me stuff so I can review it and blah 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 blah. But it's like, you need to know when to say no about it, though.
Yeah. And you made the right choice. And that's all you can do. Like, you listen to people that know, that have experience and come from that walk of life and come from that background. And I think the best answer is, what do you guys think? And they're like, just like you said, like, tuck it away and let's never talk about it again. So,
Right.
you know.
So anyway, let's get into a little bit cheerier topic. You had a pretty interesting conversation earlier in this week, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, I will say, like, look, like, it's cool during this whole comic journey, and I'm gonna put a little photo on screen, another one. You know, we've met some really cool people. And I will say, you know, from the guys at Shortbox, who eventually we have to have on here,
Oh,
to
100%.
yeah, just really amazing people out there doing great work. And I was able to speak to you know, Ashley Cutter Cairns, I hope I spelled his name right. Is an instant favorite, this guy. So he is essentially the head of comic strategy at Golden Auctions. And so Golden Auctions is one of the biggest auction houses when it comes to sports cards and things of that nature. And they're now getting into books. And so they're really pushing hard to get into comics. And I stumbled upon them, you know, just kind of by accident. I was looking at a book, and, you know, I made some bids like around like my birthday time in December. And, you know, I bought nothing huge. I bought something, and they reached out to me. It wasn't even Ashley. It was his partner, Sean. And Sean reached out to me, and which I thought was, this is, again, and talk about a thing that's not common these days, was like, hey, I want to know how the experience was. And I got to stress, I didn't spend a lot of money. This wasn't like reaching out to a whale. He didn't reach out to someone who spent 100 grand on a book. And they're like,
Right.
I spent a couple $100 on a book, like a SpiderMan book. And I was like, oh, it's a pretty good deal. And you know, I want this book, so let me get it. And he reached out, seeing how my experience was, looking for any kind of, not advice, but like feedback as a new customer. And then obviously he slid in there, and he'll appreciate this down the road. Like, he was like, oh, if you want to list any books, let me know, you know, which is great. Like, you know, you got
I
to
mean, that's how
mix.
you network, though, right?
Yeah, you got to mix the business with like being, you know, cordial. But I just think service like that, and Shortbox is on the Mount Rushmore in my head of this kind of thing, because they have the best service and the best people, and they are the feel is
I'll
such
say,
a
with
small.
what little interaction I've had with them personally, they seem like a bunch of really good dudes over there.
Yeah, so this was nice to see that also this place had a similar, and I take that to heart, because that's another thing that is super rare these days.
Yeah.
And so I wrote back immediately, was like, no, you know, everything was great. You know, everything was fine, but also like, hey, like, love to talk to you guys if you want to do an interview. And we started talking, and then, you know, Ashley, we interviewed him this week and working on the interview. And he was an amazing guy. He's a Brit. So it was great. Like I'm kind of jealous of his fancy accent. But he was just a really cool guy, a guy that didn't, he was oddly enough, a journalist in his past life, covering some fun stuff, but he was a freelance guy. So
Mhm.
I think it was like, I want to say probably about 10, plus years ago, like his career wasn't going where he wanted it to go, and loves comics, is a huge fan. And he created like a lead generation thing to buy. I've always wondered this, and this is something that you are probably getting into as with your online shop. Like I don't know how the sausage is made. And you see like collections get bought and people announce it on Instagram and they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, how does this like, is it just happen organically? And so he was saying that he created like a tech for it that worked so well that eventually, one thing led to another. Eventually he brought on, Sean, who's his partner, and then, Golden brought them on. And so the moral of that story to me was, one, customer service is just so important, and just being a human being, reaching out to people can have like amazing positive effects. And I think we're going to like talk to him more and more in the future. He's a great guy. And then the other thing is, I think if you really love something, you don't have to do what instantly is thought of in there. You don't have to be, if I love comic books, to be in the industry, I don't have to be an artist or a writer or even covering it, which we do.
Mhm.
But you find a way with what your skill set is, and obviously he is really and really sharp and created an amazing thing. That he was getting said it was like after a while, like they were getting too many things coming in. Like they were going around the country which is I still think is like such a fun thing to do, like picking up collections. And they had some big wins and big losses, and they have a lot of cool books. But that's the definition of like perseverance and really following what you want to do and finding a way into it. You don't have to,
Right.
not everything is going to be, what you think of. If you love animals, it's not always going to be becoming a vet. If you was a weird, but if you love,
But I
if
mean,
you
no,
love helping,
that's 100%. Because if you don't have the skill set to go and be a vet, well, you can go work for a rescue agency, or you can
yeah,
go, I mean, there's a billion different things you can do.
and be successful,
Yeah.
you don't have to be a doctor if you want to get into medicine and help people. You don't have to be a lawyer if you want, you can be an activist, or there's so many other things you can do. And I think, his story is a really inspiring one when he was telling me it. And I was like, this is so cool. Like he was really kind of just like kind of fading out and down in his luck and he just kind of for fun started doing this, and it's steamrolled and spiraled, and he's
Well, and that's how
loving
all of
life.
us have gotten into this lately, hasn't it? I mean, we all just were looking for other comic book nerds to have fun with, and now we
Yeah.
all just stumble into these events and roles. And
It's also nice to see some positive stories from the internet, right? Like
Mhm.
I hope we're heading into an era like that. I always joke around and say I miss the days of cat videos, because at least like dog and cat videos were positive, made you laugh, and there was nothing. No one was ever gonna go and like become depressed or upset or sad about a cat video. Like
Right, there were no mean comments on a cat videos.
you weren't hurting anybody. Some people might not like dogs or cats. That's fine. That's your prerogative. But
Right.
you scroll on, and if you don't, you're laughing and whatever. So there's just I think it's a win-win. And so it's nice to see we don't have that anymore. There's so much toxicity out there, and I think we're heading into an era. I hope we're heading into a better era where companies are smartening up and getting more attentive to that. And
Well, 'cause I
we've
think
seen it with,
people are just tired.
yeah.
I think people are just getting tired of the constant arguing back and forth over really nothing. Especially on apps like TikTok. Like I'm starting to even see the debaters be like, guys, can we just not argue, please?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It's just I think people need to listen. They need to understand, and they need to be more open-minded. Like again, like, wow, talk about a really sharp episode. Taking it back to your first segment where you said you spoke to people that friends of yours, listened to them. And I mean, you might have gone in there and wanted to, blast that company, or you might have wanted to still write a review to keep, to let them know that you're still down to review, whatever. But you want to listen and grow and open up your mind and do what's best for the people that you know and care about. And I think that's what we need to have more empathy and more listening and less like trying to. I think we're exhausted of trying to prove our point and trying to make ourselves feel good. Like I think hopefully we're at a point where like views, comments, likes, or even winning an argument is not going to make your life better or make you a better person, you know? And so maybe you do come hat in hand and say, oh, let me hear your perspective. And if it changes your perspective, great. Like I've definitely changed my perspective on things working with, you know, some people that we've worked with at Nerd Initiative that I've learned and grew from. And I've definitely become a better person, like learning from them. And
well, and it goes
that's
into
it
what
should
you
be.
and Tony always tell other people when we're talking about, like, especially when new people are coming in. We're always very conscious of the fact that we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I even
so
like, I
that's
also think
why you got to ask those kind of questions, because you're not going to gain any empathy if you don't understand where that other person is coming from.
yeah. And there's also, I've noticed there's a big difference, and I can finally crystallize this. There's being in the conversation and judging the conversation, right? So like you'll have 2 people or 3 people or 4 people talking about something, and you might not jive with what's going on. And it could be serious, or it could be just about a movie or whatever. But you know what? It's the old adage, like, if you don't have anything nice to say and you don't want to, again, it's the same thing with like social media. Just scroll on and don't engage. But I've seen, you know, every now and then you'll see, and it's not usually a Nerd Initiative, but every now and then you'll see like on social media, someone coming in, and that's what a lot of the trolls are. They're judging the conversation. So if someone posts something, and I get it all the time. I mean, it's gotten less and less. So I don't know if I don't know what it is, but like, you know, you post something, you're talking about something and you're going back and forth. Someone comes like, who cares? And it's like, well, that's the definition of toxic. You're not, you don't want to get in the
You're
conversation.
purposely saying something mean just for the sake of being mean.
You're burning calories just to try to make someone feel bad about themselves. And that's silly. Like, just move on. Go do, if you don't care, don't comment, don't engage, and move on with your day, and let the people who do care, because who did I say this to the other day? We were talking, or it was on a movie or something. It's like, whatever you like is what you like, and no one should judge that.
100%.
That's it. So, yeah.
100%, man. That
It's the end of my rambling.
All right. Well, if that's the end of that ramble, then I guess we should get into the next. Well, I guess the final segment, unless we come up with any shenanigans at the end here. The top most anticipated, my top most anticipated comic books that are brand new runs starting in February. So this is an article series that I do pretty. What is it, about once a month I do this anyway, and this time I thought it would be a little bit more fun, instead of making everybody read about it all the time, that we'd actually talk about them.
We're getting with the times. We're like, hey, like, just
right
listen to me. It's fine.
Hey, don't tempt me. I'll go back to print.
No.
I'll start sending people letters.
No, but I will say though, like, your stories were awesome. I mean, I've learned, again, and this is like on a small, not so serious scale. You know, there's been shows I've learned from Pooja, who's our movie critic at Nerd Initiative, like her recommending shows or movies. The same thing with comics with you. Like, there's stuff I've never heard of, and I'm so out of touch of modern comics, but it's really a great window and a great door into what's coming out now. And I mean, the storylines are so good these days. So I think they're print, video, whatever they are, they're fantastic. So it's
and especially right now, they're getting really interesting this year, because there's a lot of characters that haven't had a run in a while. They're getting runs. Like Marvel, for the next one coming out, is Silver Surfer Ghostlight. That's John Jennings and Valentina De Landro, and that's coming out on the 1st. But this one, basically a young girl has moved to a very small town called Sweetwater, but apparently nothing is as it seems, because there's some mystery that she stumbles on that's serious enough that the mystery, like the situation itself, summons this Silver Surfer out of like the abyss.
Okay.
So it doesn't really give any information other than there's also a teaser for who or what is Ghostlight.
I was gonna say, it looks like, let's get that photo back up. It looks like, is there 2 Silver Surfers now? Like, again, I'm so out of touch.
That's what I don't know. I believe this is a brand new character getting introduced, from what I understand.
So that's kind of cool.
But they haven't said if that's going to be like a new villain or a new version of Silver Surfer, or I'm not sure, because if that's Ghostlight on the cover, then he looks just like Silver Surfer with some extra colors added on.
Well, I will say, like, I mean, look, like, for those that don't know, the backstory of Silver Surfer, he was the herald for Galactus, right? And he sacrificed himself to save his planet. And so, you know, it would make sense that if there are other world eaters or, you know, other things out there, there could be other heralds, and maybe this one's a little bit more nasty than the original Silver Surfer. So that would be pretty interesting.
And especially like if it's starting in this really small town, like what does that mean? Is this like a character that's been like undercover on Earth for a long time, or you know, like I say, that's literally the entire description that they give. Like they don't tell you a whole lot at all about these books sometimes.
That could be interesting. It also has kind of like a Roswell feel to it too. I wonder if they're, you know, again, like when you were the second you were describing like the small town thing that's unearthed, like I just thought of like, you know, Roswell and like, what is it? Area 57 and or is it 51? Yeah, and
51,
yeah. I mean, that's the feel I got. And maybe to your point, maybe it is a character, and maybe it's going to be like a human being trying to save our planet.
Right. Well, because the only other thing they say is that introducing something 54 years in the making. So they're making it sound like this is something that Silver Surfer has been building to.
So wait, so Silver Surfer, yeah, I guess that wouldn't add up. I'm trying to look up.
When did Silver Surfer debut?
Fantastic 448. So
that would have been a little more than 54 years ago, though, wouldn't it?
That's what I was saying. I don't think the numbers add up. It's 66. So I'm not.
Let's say what happened 54 years ago in Silver Surfer.
So if you're looking at 54, let's do the math here, and everyone can sit on this while we try to figure this out. Wait, so we're 23. So 23. So you're looking at 23 minus, so you're looking at, what is it, 31 extra years? So we're looking at 69, right? So what happened to Silver Surfer in 1969? I'm gonna look it up.
See, we need a Jamie looking stuff up for us and talking in our ears.
Well, I was gonna say we need like we
like the guy on Joe Rogan's podcast. Yeah, he's got that guy off screen who just looks all his stuff up.
Boy. Remember who does around the horn on ESPN? He was like Joe Rogan. Oh, you know what is 1969? That makes a lot of sense. Hold on. Let me get we're going to do this in real time, my friend.
Hey, the perks of being live, right?
Yeah. So wait, hold on. You might have just heard that because I took a screenshot. And this could be a couple of things because there's a couple. So the Silver Surfer run, I believe, started. The actual series started in 69, and that could also be, it could be a red herring that is just alluding to the fact that the Silver Surfer run started in 69.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's always one of those.
But I will say there are, and I'm adding the photo in now. This is cool in real time. There's a couple iconic photos and covers from that original run, including that cover is 1969. But you know what also is, hold on, give me a hot second to work with this.
Because I'm also sitting here in my head because I was a big Silver Surfer fan for a long time. So I'm trying to think of like plot holes and cliffhangers that they never explained.
There is one more cover. And again, I think this is all red herrings, but it could be super interesting if it's not. So the issue right before that one that the whole beginning of the Silver Surfer run is phenomenal. This is Silver Surfer 4. It's an iconic cover, a very expensive book because it's just like one of those like covers that's like, you know.
I saw it raw recently going for like $800, $1,200.
Yeah. But you know what also came out in that time? So the issue before, Mephisto. So we're talking about 69, and what is that? Oh, maybe not. So that's December. Whatever. It came out probably in January. I don't know. So this one must have been January then, right? Does it have the date? February. Yeah. So there's a lot of interesting things that were in 1969. So yeah, who knows? It could be Silver Surfer's that's one of those individual runs. Like he's a very popular character, but that's one of those individual runs that has a cult following because there were so many good characters to come out of those like first 5-10 books. And you know what, they did come out every 2 months because remember the Mephisto book, I have it actually, is one of those extra thick books. It's like the giant size X-Men
Okay,
1
so it's like the 64 pagers or whatever.
yeah, so it's got the flat spine because it's so big. So
Gotcha.
yeah, I'm interested to see what this is, and it also could just be, again, like I said, it could be a red herring where they're just saying like the series started in '69.
Right,
so
exactly. That's why I'm not like super getting my hopes up, but it's rare that I even have a Marvel or a DC book on my most anticipated lists because I'm a huge indie reader. So I figured the Marvel junkies amongst us would appreciate that one for sure.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. And then we finally got to get Mephisto in the MCU at some point, but apparently he's rumored to be in. Is it Ironheart or is that BS?
That's the rumor that keeps going around, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like if any character was going to get Mephisto first, it would probably be SpiderMan.
Or Fantastic Four.
Or Fantastic Four. It would be one of those two. I don't feel like it would be Silver Surfer or Ironheart.
I just don't think. I think when the Fantastic Four movie comes out, I do not think they can go with Doctor Doom again as the main villain. And like, it's just, you can't do
straight
that
away.
Yeah, you got to build up to it. You can't do that 3 times in a row. It's just, it would be just too much. So there's going to have to be someone new as the main foe in that film. So only
one of the only other big Fantastic Four villains at one time was the Silver Surfer. So, I mean, they could do that again. I think the design of Silver Surfer in the first movie was really, really good. But
well, it was also played by Doug Jones, who is an iconic. He's kind of like the Andy Serkis before Andy Serkis. So to know, you know, he was in what's the movie that we watched on Stream Lounge together that he was in, Hocus Pocus.
Yeah,
iconic. I mean, Doug Jones is like one of those incredibly talented like guys, and so he played Normrad. And it just, obviously the movie was just not great. But
I mean, let's be honest, the movie was to show off Jessica Alba.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the whole point of that movie.
No one will ever get over, and I think we can prep clips in the future, really cool ones, but no one ever gets over Mr. Fantastic's wedding dance is the best part of that whole thing, where he his arms are like this and he's doing that. Yeah, nothing ever beats that. That was the word. I mean,
who would do that if you could do that though? I mean, that'd be probably the first thing I'd do if I had those powers, would just to be that dance. Like, but yeah, are we still got you? Oh, okay, you froze for a second.
Oh no, okay, I'm back.
Okay,
so I guess that's the cue to move on to the next one.
Right. Well, the next one actually comes out on the same day unless it gets delayed, but it's from Image and it's called Blood Tree. It's Peter Tomasi and Maxim Simic.
Okay.
And this one is basically two obsessive NYPD detectives go after a vicious serial killer known as the Angel Killer, whose only prey is innocent family members of known convicted murderers.
Oh, Lord.
In order to, quote unquote, purify society.
Well, that just sounds rough.
I was going to say, like, that is taking something like that to the extreme. Like that, like, I understand, you know, if you're like Dexter. Did you ever see the show Dexter?
Oh yeah,
where it was the serial killer who only killed other killers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this guy doesn't kill the killers; he kills the killer's family members.
Yeah, that's unfair. Like
what did they do?
I have a sister who is, you know, has some morally reprehensible, you know, things, but I hope no one comes after me because of my sister. And she's not a serial killer, so let's not go there. But she's got some questionable character, so like I would not want to be like guilty by association because of
right. That's basically what it is, right? That's guilt by association, like 100%. But I think it's really cool because you don't really see a whole lot of like detective stories for comic books anymore, even though, you know, detective comics, but show me a detective comics run that actually had a lot of detective work in it recently.
Yeah. Well, you can
Like
take it back
real
to
detective work, not, you know,
Yeah.
Batman's new ultra high tech nanotech freaking
Yeah, I was gonna
adaptive
say,
suits and, you know, like
but
this
yeah,
sounds like it's
that's
going to
one I
be
gotta
more
check
along the
out.
lines of like some Dick Tracy actual detective story.
Yeah. I like that. That's really cool, actually. But on top of that, like I was saying earlier, I was supremely disappointed with I don't know if you've seen the latest season of Dexter, which
I have
was
not. How they've rebooted it. Basically, it's like version 2 because he's in Alaska now, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, and they teased it. Like, I mean, I don't know if they planned on doing that from the start. They teased it at the end of the run. You know, obviously, like not to give away too much, but he's in the situation he's
I'll
kind
say
of
if you
at
haven't
now.
seen that show by now, spoiler warning is way expired.
Like 20 years. Yeah, like all right.
I don't know if it's
Yeah.
20 years old, but it's old now. Like it's at least a decade
It's
old.
pretty old. I think Dexter, it's got to be over 10, I think. It's been a while
Because if
since
it
the
was
original
20
show.
years old, that means it would have came out when I was 12.
Okay, so let me
And I
see.
know I wasn't that young.
It's pretty old, dude. 2006.
Okay, so it started when I was 16.
17 years. That's old. That's a pretty old
Okay,
show.
dang.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, look, when Dexter, I don't know if they got married during or not, but remember Dexter was married to Deborah when the show was going on
You're
in real life.
right. I forgot about
And
that.
they got divorced and yeah, this whole thing. So I mean, man, that
had to have been an interesting acting challenge. Dealing
then I
with
think
girlfriend, then wife, then ex-wife all in the same show.
I'm actually doing the research now. So remember Aster? Remember the daughter of she's like, that's weird too, because this is not for anything. She's not in the follow-up. She's 25 years old. I remember Aster, and I'm trying to think. She looks familiar, like I've seen her in another show. She probably is still an actress. That would make sense, but she was like an 8-year-old, 9-year-old child
I
star.
was
And
saying, yeah,
I'm
like
looking at photos now, and she is a grown-up 25-year-old woman, and that
that's
is
crazy.
bizarre to see.
It
That's
just shows you how
crazy.
quick time goes by when you're not paying attention.
That's crazy. All right,
right,
what's the final?
I got one more, and that is called Blue Book. This is a new one coming out of Dark Horse on the 22nd by James Tynion IV and Michael Avon Oeming. And it's probably no secret to anybody that follows me on any other apps that Tynion is like one of my favorite comic book writers of all time. And this is interesting because you don't see a lot of comic books adapted from real life stories.
Okay.
And this series he's calling it his series of true weird stories. So these are actual real stories that happened in real life that he is putting into comic books. And the first run of it is 5 issues going over the original alien abduction. The original story of it, which was I'm trying to remember the couple's name. Let me get on here. It was Betty and Barney Hill abductions, where they were driving in their car late at night. A light appeared over top of them and they were abducted. And then they spent like years and years and years trying to find the aliens and prove that this story was real. And like, so this is all a real story that happened back in like the 50s, right around the time of all the Roswell stuff and all that.
Yeah. I'm gonna say it really directly and clear. Hard pass. Scares the absolute hell out of me. So that is a hard pass.
But each like little season of this series is going to be covering a different story. So every 5 issues is a different story, basically.
That is cool though. I respect it. I mean, I remember getting scared out of my mind when I was a kid from remember the Mothman prophecies?
Oh yeah, I got a buddy who lives not far where all that happened.
Hard pass. I remember like
he took me down to that bridge once where they say the Mothman comes.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
no,
he took me down there once and tried to scare the crap out of me, but you know, nothing happened obviously, but it was creepy. It was cool.
I mean, even I'm really having trouble. I will say, and it's only been 2 episodes in The Last of Us, and I don't get scared by stuff like that, but it just feels, I don't know, like what a terrible way for the world to go. And
oh yeah, 100%.
For those that aren't watching The Last of Us, basically, it's
or
not
haven't
alien
played the
abductions
game.
or anything. Yeah, it's like fungus that like inhabits your brain and basically turns you into a zombie, but you're a fungus
Oh yeah, it
zombie.
is not a show for a hypochondriac.
Mhm. Yeah, that I think I definitely fit into that at this point. Yeah, it's just and
I
the
understand
last
because my
episode.
mother fits into that category of hypochondriac. Like she's not allowed to watch House. She's not allowed.
Well, House, I mean, at least it's not like again, like I think the older I get, the more I get scared of like, and I think again, things feel like they're changing so fast and so quickly, and like
Mhm.
I think we're, and I could be wrong. I don't think it's just the older person in me saying this, but like I feel like we're losing a grip on the world. Like it's not as like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, things felt more like whether you were happy or not with your life, like think the world made more sense. I think. I don't
Yeah.
know. Like now I think there's so much going on and so many things happening and things are changing and evolving and is it all good? Is it not good? Like, and there's so much going on. And so like with that, like one of my biggest fears is like all these, what are, what's going on? And so like, yeah, I am definitely The Last of Us is like scared the
Your
crap out of
worst
me.
nightmare, basically. Like
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I think 15 years ago that would have been like that's the most ridiculous thing in the world. Now that like when and they make
the
it seem
further
so like,
technology advances, the more crazy stuff that comes out, man. All the medical stuff. I'm like, somebody's gonna mess with something and screw something up
but
and
think about
cause
like think
something
about
bad.
think about like also technology. I mean, when I was a kid, we Terminator like that seemed like so like not far fetched because technology changes and grows so fast. But
Mhm.
like now, like there's
But
AI that like
well, I mean, if you compare the technology jump from like 2008 to now compared to like, I don't know, 75 to like 99, 75 to the 90s was not a huge leap in technology.
no, but
Like, yeah,
now
there were advancements obviously that improved things, but as far as like overall, there was not that much advancement over that like 30, 40 years.
nope.
And then you get into the 2000s and everything just went 100 miles an hour. And
You
that's
got
because that's the period
yeah.
I grew up in. I grew up in the dying age. I'm the last generation to have VHS tapes. I'm the last generation to hear that dial-up internet tone. Like I was born the year the internet came out.
I'm not
So
doing it. I can't even do it right. But like, yeah, I mean, I think it's really scary. I mean, there's deep fakes. Like someone was saying the other day, like, people are getting more and more scared of like deep fake blackmail because they're getting
Mhm.
so good. And photoshopped photos apparently you can't remove all the you can remove the metadata to like show if it's photoshopped or not. So you could ostensibly, if you have really good tech, and I don't want to put ideas out there for people, but
Right.
you could
We do
like
not condone this type of
no,
behavior.
no, but like you could put someone in a weird predicament, and
Yeah.
that's not a good thing. But at the same time, like it's even scarier that like the technology's that good that we can't figure it out. Like I see, I see whether it's TikTok or Instagram, deep fake Tom Cruise. Are you aware of deep fake
Yes,
Tom
yes,
Cruise?
I've seen that.
He did a video recently. It was like Paris Hilton. Like it's bizarre
Mhm.
how good. I mean, the only reason it's not him is because it's young Tom Cruise. So that's at least there's
Right.
that. It's just it's 30-year-old or 40-year-old Tom Cruise. It's not. I think Tom Cruise is like 55 now, and so you can tell he's older. And this one's a much younger version. But like,
But then look at the deep fake stuff they did with like Luke Skywalker.
yeah,
Like, it looked
it's really friggin'
so
scary.
good. Like, I mean, obviously, it has room to improve,
And
obviously, but
we'll get there in a year or two, I'm sure. But don't even
right. I mean, look at
forget the
they don't
deep
even
fake.
really use green screens anymore in a lot of things. They've been
You're
using
talking
these
about the
big,
deep
huge
fake.
LCD augmentation walls where it's like augmented reality. Like the Star Trek cast was talking about it for Discovery and Strange New Worlds. They have been using these big, huge walls instead of green screens. That it actually builds the environment around the actors and they can see everything
Ugh,
that's supposed to be in the scene.
I'm
So it's
scared.
like, how wild is that? Like
Yeah. But also the fact that you brought up the Luke Skywalker thing, not even the face so much as
the
that's
voice.
the fact that for those who don't know out there, Mark Hamill did not read any lines for The Mandalorian. Was it The Mandalorian or was it
It
Boba
was
Fett?
Mandalorian.
Oh yeah, because
Or it might have been Boba Fett. It was one of the 2.
yeah, it's hard to tell. But like whatever show that he didn't cameo in. that's scary too, and not just from an artistic sense, but also from the sense of like,
because they sold the rights to Stan Lee too. So like everybody's been asking, what are they going to do with that? Are they going to do just a bunch of deep fake cameos now in every movie, or
well, with Vader, James Earl Jones, he retired, but like he retired, but Darth Vader didn't retire because they're going to use the same technology they used for Mark Hamill with James Earl Jones, and he's in his 90s, and he doesn't care. And so he probably signed it off and was like, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead, do that.
Oh, I'm
like,
sure he got paid very well.
yeah. But I mean, it's just scary. Like it takes forget the artistic thing is one thing. And then earlier we said there's like layers to things. Like the first layer is the artistic, you don't want to be stealing, stuff. And I think Mark Hamill said, I don't think he talked much about it, but my observation, my take on it was that he wasn't in, like they didn't reach out to him to do voiceover work, and the guy is a very accomplished voiceover actor, and like they just kind of went and did whatever. But I also think like the next level past the artistic license is this is friggin' scary, and like what happens when they could
Get
they
so good that you can't tell the difference anymore.
Oh,
Like,
a thought just came to my mind. I'm not even going to put it out there, but like, leaders of countries, you could. I mean,
they can get really scary really quick the more you think
really
about
bad
it.
really quick. I mean, for those who don't know, the age-old story, is it War of the Worlds, or what was the radio station? Was it?
It was War of the Worlds that started as a radio show, and people in that time period,
lost their
because there was no
minds.
real-time news broadcasts all like that, they thought it was real.
Yeah. So
And it caused mass panic. There were riots. Like it was bad.
to catch people up on War of the Worlds basically was like a radio show, and it was pretended as like an alien invasion. And so back in the 40s or 50s before TV was prevalent, or 30s,
I think it was even probably in the 30s.
Yeah, it was, people would,
When it
the entertainment of that day was radio. So they would get on there and they had shows. So like they would have, picture like Friends, but like only audio, or
For a
Star
comic
Wars
book
only
example, The Shadow started as a host, the narrator of a radio show back in the 30s.
Yeah. So War of the Worlds was like, this was fiction. It was like aliens coming and whatever, but it was such a good job, and people got so scared because they played it off as like a news,
like a reals news broadcast.
and it was like, yeah, we're being invaded. This is not a drill, blah, blah. And people took to the streets and like tried to escape their towns and their homes and their cities. And it caused pandemonium. I'm sure people were hurt, amongst it, like anything like, any kind of like mass hysteria, people get hurt in the melee of like, everything that's going on. And that's scary. That's why there's a reason why you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, because it will hurt people, and like people will freak out and run. And so I don't know, man.
There's a reason why there's disclaimers at the beginning of things saying this is a work of fiction. That is probably one of the reasons why.
Yeah. So technology scares the crap out of me. So does science. I mean, everything. Maybe I'm just getting old and like really
quit changing stuff. Get off my lawn.
I'm just getting scared. Everything's just, I think I will say this. I think there's a couple of things. I think technology is quickly becoming more than we can handle. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. But I also think at the same time, the world is evolving in a weird way. I think, I don't know. The world is changing. And so we're in a very state of change and flux, and I hope things solidify. And I'm not talking even about like movements. I'm talking about like climate change and technology, and like, I don't know. It scares me, and hopefully we're able to kind of like walk some things back, but we'll see. I don't know. I don't know how I even got this long conversation, but
because I showed this book right here about alien abductions coming out on February 22nd.
Yeah. Yeah, I got triggered. It's fine.
Now I know how to creep out Michael if I ever have to.
Yeah,
I'll just show up in Alien or Terminator costumes. We'll be good.
But great. I mean, fantastic selection of books, though. So I'm not gonna, knock you on that one. Fantastic selection. So.
Yeah, but on that note, I think that's about all we've got for him tonight, man. Is there anything you want to announce or tell people to go look for or anything like that?
No, I mean, I just want to put a note out there to, since we're on technology, to Skynet and everything else out there. Like, I am a loyal servant. So when time comes, please Please, spare me.
Rather
and-
be a battery than a corpse. All
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Oh. Knock on wood, man. Ugh. But yeah.
On that
This
note,
became it went quickly from a comic show to a conspiracy theory. Like they're out there and
yeah,
we're all
but,
in the
you know,
Matrix. And
unlike some conspiracy theorists out there, we're not being serious. So.
or at least not mostly serious. So, yeah.
Right. But anyway, on that note, guys, until the next time we have an episode, everybody be safe, be kind, and take it easy.